All right, Heather Jackson, welcome back to the Singletrack Podcast, live this time in Olympic Valley.
I know, live. I love it. It's so good to see you and be with you guys in person.
Yeah, welcome to the Singletrack HQ for the week.
It's amazing. I love it. So cool to be here. Thanks for having me.
From what I understand, this is your first time in Olympic Valley, not just Western States, but Olympic Valley. What are your first impressions?
Oh my God. I honestly I feel like a kid in a candy shop. I'm just my phone is out. I'm just that first timer that's taking photos of everything and just taking it all in and just so excited to be here.
Should we run up that? Should we run up that? Should we run up that?
Exactly. All the trail. There's just the whole drive here was just trails and oh my God, is that part of it? Do we run there? Should we run there today? It's been awesome.
Where did you drive here from?
We just drove here from Tucson. So we got into Truckee last night. Last dinner time last night.
Until we saw the weather change pretty drastically for this race, I was telling people that nobody would be more heat trained for this race than you.
Oh my God. You are here seeing me in person. I literally shed a layer or two because I'm like, this might be embarrassing. I had another puffy coat on. I am so frozen. This morning I woke up and it was 33 in Truckee and I was like, shit, This is the time we start on Saturday. And so I've actually been not scrambling, but kind of thinking what I should do for the start. Cause all the photos I see of the start of this race, people are in shorts and t-shirts, Camille Herron's in a bra top. And I'm like, do they really start in 30 degrees that?
Last year at the start, I think it was in the 50s.
Okay.
Same with the previous years. This is just a cool year. We're just kind of catching it on one of the rare, cooler temp years. Not to say that it will feel cool the whole time. So I think, all the heat training that you've been doing is still going to be beneficial.
Okay. Yeah. I'm everyone all I heard, or a lot of what I heard about Western States is it gets so hot. And I'm just okay, full Kona mode. We're going to be heat prepped. We're going to stay in Tucson all of May because usually we kind of migrate north to Bend earlier than we have. And I've been in Tucson the last 5 weeks and it's been 100 plus.
So even though, you're still relatively new to the trail running world, you're not new to racing in hot weather. Have you taken a lot of the heat training strategies from preparing for races like Kona into this race?
For sure. I mean, Kona had been my focus for 7-8 years and literally you have to train the swim, bike, run, but you have to train the heat. That's as important, if not more important than the 3 sports you have to do. Because if you can't operate in the heat, it's pointless all the training you do to run certain mile splits or swim a certain thing when you're just blowing up in the heat. So it took me a few years in Kona to figure that out, doing, sauna protocols or these kind of other things you could do in, say, not as a hot place. And it didn't go that well for me. And that's just a personal what I need to do. And that literally led us to, in 2000, I think it was 15, buying a condo in Tucson specifically for Kona prep and knowing, okay, I need to be in the actual heat for 6 weeks. And I would get to Kona early October and step off the plane. It would feel cool. And so literally, I just mentioned, I heard heat prep. I'm okay, I know what I have to do. And so we did the same thing just the last month or so in Tucson. So hopefully those canyons, hopefully I get down into them and it's not too crazy.
You've been on our radar for quite some time. We've been avid followers of your YouTube content for many years, but we first got to see you race last fall at the Javelin 100, and you really brought awesome fireworks to that race. And I remember seeing you on lap 2 or lap 3 and just thinking, wow, she looks so smooth. She's a natural convert to trail. You did have a little bit of a struggle in the second half of the race, but still a very impressive debut. Talk about what you learned from that race and what you're hoping to translate into Western on Saturday.
Yeah, thanks. I remember when we did the podcast the first time, and I looked up, I think it was on socials or something, and I was oh my, I saw the 2 of you because you had been there, and I was oh my God, I think we ran at some point together or closely.
Yeah, I think most of the first lap, I just didn't know it, but then looking back at the splits, I was oh, we ran together for 25 miles.
Yeah, totally. I was I had to put a name to a face, and I think you had a super cool shirt on or something, right? Or colorful or...
Yes. Shouts to Dylan Brand Running.
Okay.
One of my college teammates designed it.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I saw the photos. I'm oh my God, I remember being near you. So anyways, yeah, Javelina, that was That was an interesting one. I was obviously coming off, not obviously, but I was coming off Kona Fitness and just purely using that, just get out there and see how this trail running thing goes. And I felt pretty solid through probably 70, I think it was 70-ish miles. And then before the the rails came off. But to your question, I think I walked away from that being like, okay, I really need to work on the downhill running. I think just general fitness and general endurance, I have that from years of Ironman racing. I'm used to racing 8, 9, 10 hours. And so that isn't really daunting to me. It's more kind of the style of running. And that's not going down to the bike path in Tucson and ticking off, mile reps. It's like get into the hills and try to really pound the quads down. So that's been the biggest thing I've been working on the last 6 months, just trying to, shred the quads and recover, and hopefully all the ups and downs Saturday we'll see a little bit better than Javelina went last October.
In every race that we've seen you perform in to date, you've always been right there at the front of the field. I feel like, and this could be just a function of you running your own race, but you've always been there mixing it up at the front. When you think about your strategy for races like Black Canyon and Javelina and Western on Saturday, do you plan these out to run your own race, or are you someone that likes to respond to the elements, the competition, and just how people are out there performing on that given day?
Yes, I think I'm a racer for sure. I love to race, and I'm not going to change that approach. I race by feel, and I race by my competition in terms of like, if someone's going, I'm going to go.
Yeah, I love that.
Thanks. I also feel like I need to give a little context to the fact that your listeners are probably mostly trail runners or runners.
Definitely,
and so
trail and ultra, yeah.
In triathlon, I was always out of the water last or one of the last people. So I'm coming from a history of literally, what is it going to be when I get out of the water and see my husband Waddy? Is it going to be 6 minutes? Is it going to be 8? Is it going to be 12 or 15? And I would go into triathlons knowing like this disappointment in my gut of like, what's it going to be today? And how hard am I going to have to chase on the bike and then in the marathon to try to get up near the front? And so now I'm coming into this sport where I'm not just like literally from the start knowing I have to claw back 10 minutes. So I think it's this excitement of like, oh my God, this must be what like Lucy Charles feels like. I just like, I'm not at a deficit so early. So I think I probably get caught up in like, okay, like I'm near the front. I got to stay up here, like do what I can to do that. And just, I mean, and obviously, yeah, still just being new to the sport and not really understanding the like how you even pace these. I mean, I don't know. I still don't know. And I'm baffled at how you ever kind of gain that knowledge over the time. Obviously these top women like Courtney's here, like all these top women, they have their strategy dialed. And I do feel a little bit novice being like, I don't have the pacing strategy. I just race by feel, and hope that one of these times, maybe it'll be that like Hail Mary and stay.
And, I definitely don't think that there's any one strategy that's better than the other. I think that, to each their own, but one, and you mentioned it there, one element of this race that's so exciting to me is there's you, there's Keely, there's Courtney, there's Katie, the list goes on, people that are here and they enjoy the racing component. Like, it's not just necessarily the race falling back to them or, that kind of stuff, but like being up there in the mix early on. I love that.
I appreciate you putting my name in with those women because they're, the top of the sport. And just to even be on the start line, I was telling my husband, I'm like, I haven't met Katie in person. I've messaged with her a bunch. I think she's done a little bit of try early on. So she had reached out after Javelina, but Courtney, I've never met her in person. I'm like, I'm going to find her and line up next to her at the start line and be like, I am next to Courtney DeWalter.
That's awesome.
That's so good. Yeah. That's one of the great parts of, racing is like you do all start on the same start line and everyone has the same opportunity, for greatness out there. Diving a little bit into, like the race and the course, are there any, like what elements of the Western States course, like, do you find most intriguing? Because it's a very diverse course in terms of all the different sections of it.
Yeah, totally. That's why I'm so excited because it's not, I feel like you can't just like map out, okay, here are the splits I want to hit, or the how things will go, because it's so unknown. I mean, we're running up snow. I mean, I have yet to go over and see it, but I've seen some pictures and video. Like, you're running up snow, and it's, from things I've listened to, 30 miles potentially of different snow. So that's so different than just like, okay, we're going to go run this, very straightforward race. So I think the snow is super intriguing. I didn't know this at the time, but I come from New Hampshire. Originally, I'm from New Hampshire. And
Nice.
yes.
Northeast fans here.
Okay, perfect. Sox, Bruins, Celtics. Yep. Okay. So I love the winter and I love the holidays. And so I spent all of December and most of January in Bend, literally running in the snow. And at the time, it was just because I wanted to be with my family in the holidays. Waddy always heads to Tucson earlier. He's from San Diego. He's total SoCal guy, out of the snow. And now I'm looking back, I'm like, okay, I ran in the snow all December. Like, maybe that muscle memory will come back. Like, but it's more that, the intrigue and the excitement about getting through that. And then all I've heard about is the canyon section, just the up and down, the heat, how that will be the wearing part. And then the final bit is, quote unquote, runnable. So kind of having those three different things to break it up and, have different focuses on, of like, okay, like, how are all these different things going to go?
You raced Canyons 50K back in April, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you've done miles in the back half. Any other familiarity with the course?
No other. And we literally, in May we were like, I should either do a heat block or like an altitude block or a race specific block. We literally weighed that out.
Yeah.
And it was like, we were going to come to Auburn or this area early and just be on the course and training. And I've done that before in triathlon, and it has actually backfired for me, just being at the spot for so long that by the time the race comes, it's almost like you lose that excitement for it. You kind of just want the race to be here because you've been here for so long. You've run the same trails.
Interesting.
And that's not to say I wouldn't do that in the future maybe, or come and practice more. But I have done that for Kona, and it was like, by the time the race came around, it was almost like a mental fatigue. You weren't as excited for it. And then we weighed the altitude and the heat, and we were like, okay, like, we run out of altitude. So I was like, maybe the heat will weigh more in terms of like what we should prioritize, and just out of ease. And we have a condo in Tucson, like staying there made sense. But to your question, besides canyons, which we only covered, I think, the final like 4 or 5 miles coming up, I don't have any idea what's ahead.
One other question that comes to mind, you obviously have a long history with Kona, a long storied history with Kona. Are you someone that likes to create multi-year projects out of races? Like, could you see, even if you knock it out of the park at Western States this year, could you see yourself coming back year after year to kind of fine tune and just get the best out of yourself?
Totally. To your question, I think I fall in love with races and the communities and the people and all that races and all that encompass certain races. And I found that in triathlon. I fell in love with Kona and just getting there every year and putting so much towards it. And I could definitely see that even coming here for canyons. I mean, the main point of me racing canyons was just to get out and kind of check things. And even from that, which was a short weekend, I fell in love with Auburn. I fell in love with, I did a project with Hoka that whole week, and we met a bunch of kind of the historical people around the event, and it was really cool. And I already felt that draw of like, this is quite awesome. The event. This is the 50th year too. Yes. So my first time doing this, knock on wood, there will hopefully be a future as well. I get to do it for the 50th year, which is so cool.
Absolutely. You had mentioned doing a project with Hoka. Hoka's, been one of our sponsors for this week, and we're super thankful for them. When we were doing the broadcast for the Black Canyon 100K, one of the things that like almost went viral was like, every time we would see Heather Jackson on the course, like, is she wearing a different pair of shoes than last time? So, how big's the shoe closet? I would love to know what the shoe plan is looking like for race day.
Resident shoe nerd here.
Okay, cool.
I mean, yeah, you got to be a shoe nerd to.
Yes, exactly.
Heather
you have the kitty Hokas on, and I also have them. And
Heather has a pair as well.
Yes, I wish I had worn them today.
You got the cool laces.
I have the tri laces in. These are the speed laces, because obviously over like a 20-hour day, I really need to save 5 seconds in transition. So yes. The speed laces are in.
It's all about the mentality.
I'm actually reminded. So this was something that Arlen Glick in the men's field talked about. His last 100-miler, which was in North Carolina this spring, he spent a total of 21 seconds in aid stations en route to a win. And I'm curious, have you thought at all about like your aid station strategy and how much time you either want to save there, or do you want to really spend your time there, take care of yourself, get wet if it's hot, change shoes, stuff like that?
Oh my goodness. So again, coming from triathlon where I always had to make up time, I was always in a deficit. I would literally strive to win the transitions because that was, for me, 30 seconds I could make up. That's a minute. And some races had come down to 10 seconds. So it's like, there was your race right there if I just had gotten my shoe on quicker. So I'm very aware of transition, or I don't know what they're called, but
I don't like that phrase for this.
Okay.
Transition, yeah.
Transitions. So for me, I really try to, we're still kind of laying out what the aid nutrition looks like, what I'm grabbing, but to make sure that's dialed and to be in and out of those aid stations as quick as possible. I feel like I have to give a shout out to Pat Reagan, fellow Hoka runner.
Yes.
Okay. He, before Javelina, I did a little like phone call with him, consultation. He was one of the first people I met at a Hoka kind of brand conference, and was the first time I kind of started following trail running, where I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, and Pat has always been amazing, like super supportive in tri-side and now the running. But he made a comment to me of like, if you look at a race like Javelina or a 100-mile race and how many aid stations there's 4 a lap, you're doing 5 laps, it's 20 aid stations. If you do 1 minute in each one, that's 20 minutes. If you take 2 minutes at every one, that's 40 minutes. So that's the difference between like whatever, a 16-hour day and a 1640.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think of it that way, it's very like, well, that's 40 minutes. So obviously you have to take time to get the aid you need, but I am very much like in and out.
Cool.
Yeah, I think last year in the ladies race, 40 minutes was the difference between like 2nd and 7th or 8th place.
Okay.
Huge.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
That adds up. Absolutely.
I'll be out there trying to, but obviously, taking care of myself, but I will be like
Speed laces.
Yeah, speed laces are in.
Like, the speed lace mentality.
Yeah, I like that. I might hashtag that, speed lace mentality.
Yep.
I did interrupt Brett though, to the extent that you can disclose it. What shoes are you wearing on race day?
Oh yeah. So, well, that was partly why I wanted to get over this, check out the snow. I'm pretty positive I'm going to start in, I don't have them on, the Hoka Speed Goats. I feel like they're a little bit kind of lower to the ground for like maybe better feel in the snow, and the lugs are pretty good. And they're a little bit less than, I've talked to some of the other Hoka runners of what they're starting in, like the Mafates or some of these other options. In my mind, those are a little bit more like solid or more material or heavier. And if they get wet or, I don't know. I also haven't spent too much time in them, so I don't want to switch. I've run in the Speed Goats a lot. So I think a little bit lower to the ground in the snow. I'll start with those. I'm trying to figure out like, cause I've also like been watching a lot of the past year videos and the aid stations, everything. And I'm like, I haven't seen anyone changing shoes in Robinson Flat, but my plan is to change there because I've heard there's no snow after that. So I would maybe pull on the Tecton X there. They're the new ones out that are a little bit cushier, but still trail. And I may or may not be pulling on the Carbon Rocket X2s at some point.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. We love the Rocket X2 here.
I'm a Rocket X2 fan.
They're so good. It's like free speed. I know I'm coming from a road.
That's a good tagline, free speed.
Yeah. It's like hard for me not to pull them on. So it's just a matter of when. I don't know. Originally, I thought it would be a lot later in the race, and then I've been messaging with Cole Watson, fellow Hoka runner, and I don't know if they're coming on earlier for him. I don't want to speak for him.
Brett's athlete.
Okay. Did you advise him not to, or to?
After we stop recording, I'll give you the full
Okay, I need it.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
But I was like, okay. I mean, I already wanted to, so all I need is that one little person being like, I'm gonna too, and I'm like, all right, they're going on. So, if not there, then maybe like the one after the river.
Oh, Green Gate.
So somewhere in there, I'm thinking those will go on, but
exciting.
Yeah, That's the Hoka rundown.
All the more reason to tune into the live stream.
I know. I know.
The transitions and the shoe changes.
Get your Heather Jackson shoe bingo cards ready.
Exactly.
I'm going to use that free speed tagline during our ad reads.
Oh, and the speed lace mentality.
And the speed lace mentality.
Yes.
Yeah.
So much good
Wow.
stuff.
Yeah, I think we need to have you on for a future Long Run Archives episode. Just
that'd be amazing.
How many great ideas have already come to existence on this one.
Perfect. Yes, that'd be awesome.
Are we ready to continue the tradition?
Yes. The Singletrack HQ tradition. Dylan is going to supply us with the official watermelon of Western
goodness.
States. And Heather, you said that you had been listening to a lot of the content leading up, so I think you might already know what's going on. We'll see how much you've been practicing, but 2 things. We would love for you to draw your best cougar. We'll give you 15 seconds, and then if you could sign it, and we're still figuring out what we're going to actually do with the official watermelon of Western States.
It's going to the track.
Yeah, it's definitely going to track. Like, we're thinking maybe like a golden hour, like warm, gross watermelon. Like we'll cut it open or something. I don't know. But for now, we'll.
I'll go by him. Okay.
And I'll begin the countdown.
I know. I'm like, to listeners, I've been listening to all the Singletrack podcasts the whole drive up from Tucson, so I knew it was coming, and yet I did not practice drawing. So I need to look at the cougar.
Right, we're gonna give you 15 seconds in 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh my God! I need to...
Doom, 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 doom. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Let's see it. Let's show it to the
Just
fans.
The cougar. The signing wasn't in the time.
Oh, okay, we'll have you sign it. No, yeah, you don't.
Okay.
Let's show it off to
I don't think it's
the viewers.
legible, but
That's awesome.
It looks great.
We'll put up more pictures on the Singletrack Instagram page.
I love the signature too.
Yeah, it looks like it's kind of like actively like stalking.
exactly.
It's in hunt mode.
Exactly.
This cougar has
How do I change the camera here? Angle.
Bottom right.
Okay.
Yeah, this one has the speed lace mentality.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Can I write that on there? Speed lace mentality.
Awesome. So good.
That's a thing now.
Heather, I know we've said it before, but we're so grateful that you're here today. Thank you so much for sitting down with us and sharing your wisdom. I think just your entry into the sport is so exciting, and we cannot wait for the imminent fireworks on race day. It's going to be so fun to follow your race.
Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so much for having me. I feel honored.